we continue our conversation with Linda Murray, assistant lightweight men's coach at Harvard University. We hear a lot about Title IX and the resulting increase in participation among women, particularly in collegiate sport. However, since Title IX has passed, we're seeing a drastic reduction in the number of women that coach these women's teams. We see an even greater reduction in the number of women coaching men's teams. But Linda Murray is an excellent example of one female coach who successfully has coached a men's program. Let's take a look.
Okay, find a good rhythm right away. Let's stay to the center a little bit more here just because of the shallow water. Robert, check the weight. Check the weight like in the 4.
When I coached the high school rowers, that was all girls, but when we moved to Ithaca, the position that was available was with the freshman men, lightweight freshman men. And so I just did that because that's what it was. And when it was time to leave and I was looking for another job, I'd actually applied for a job at Yale for the assistant coach for the women's team. And I was talking to some friends. I was actually talking to Charlie Butt, who's my boss here. And I said, you know, I'm thinking about this job and there's a couple other things that I'm interested in. And he said, you're looking for a job? We've got a job right here. And I'm thinking, Boston? My husband and I would love to live in Boston. So it wasn't premeditated to take a job coaching men, but the opportunity to get to work with Charlie and to work with Harry overrode just about everything else. So for me, who you get to work with is more important, I think, than the athletes. You want to make sure you've got a good athletic director and the coaching staff is supportive. But now I've been coaching freshman lightweight men. This is for 14 years. This is my 11th year at Harvard and the 3 years at Cornell. And honestly, to me, it doesn't matter. I love coaching freshmen. I think being an assistant coach is great. And freshmen in college are a different breed. You know, they start out, they don't know what they're doing. They think they're really important, then they realize they're not, and they just a lot of growth by the end of the freshman year. So it's really a lot of fun.
Okay, we're gonna do the same thing in the opposite direction. They're gonna start first. So now you got to make sure that they know what's going on, where the other boat is, because they don't have the benefit of being able to see like on the last piece. Paul, don't take it easy on those freshmen. Make them square up and keep that outside wrist flat.
When I got introduced to that first squad at Cornell, they'd already been rowing for 2 weeks. You know, I got introduced as coming back from the World Championships with a medal. So that was helpful. And I make sure that the guys every year, the freshmen coming in, know who I am, know what I've done. I think that's important, and I do use that to my advantage, and that's helpful to me. And I think someone without those same kind of credentials could have a harder time. But they're probably going to have a harder time whether they're a man or a woman. You know, if someone comes in with Olympics, that trumps me. It's just kind of how it goes. But when we have the meetings with the freshmen every year in the fall when they've come onto campus, you know, Charlie will do a big introduction for me and let them know. And one year he told them how much I could squat when I was training. He's like, Linda can squat 315 pounds. Somebody remembered that little bit of information, because at the head of the Charles that year, the freshmen usually make t-shirts because we don't have uniforms in the fall, and right before they were launching, they tossed me this t-shirt, and I held it up and it has my name on the back, and I was like, wow, this is really cool, 315. I'm like, I wonder what that is. And so I thought, this is pretty nice. They've all got these little shirts, they have their names on them. It was a cold day, they launched, they came back, and I see them racing, and I realize every single shirt says Murray 315 on the back of it. So they knew what that was for, and so I do get respect in terms of the athletic accomplishments. I mean, most of them, except for the really top guys coming out of high school, they all think that I can still beat them on the erg, or that I could have at least when I was competing, and hopefully not.
All right, time for some video. We don't do game tapes like other sports do. It's hard to see everything, and then I can play it back, watch it in slow motion, and do that kind of analysis.
I think that I was very lucky with the coaches that I had growing up, and in particular the coaches that I had in high school were very supportive. I had Pat Sales was my field hockey coach, and she was really encouraging of me, wanted me to consider playing field hockey in college. Mrs. Chenard was my track and field coach, and they were just really positive role models, very supportive, and I felt like I got a lot out of being on those teams. I had some other coaches, and certainly some of my national team coaches were less than supportive, and so it was kind of, well, what don't you want to do in terms of coaching? And again, I had great support from both my parents in terms of my athletic experience growing up, and I think that influenced me just in terms of being a positive coach. I'm not one of those coaches that swears and yells a lot. People think that, they say in terms of rowing, Harry Parker, who's been coaching here for 50 years, doesn't say a lot. And when I go out and watch other coaches, I realize I don't say a lot either. So I'm not sure where that comes from. But what I do try to say, I try to make things positively based. I've done studying of coaching styles, and John Wooden was a major influence in terms of seeing how he coached and reading and trying to use as much positive reinforcement as possible. It's difficult, it's challenging, and I don't always manage it, and try to come back to that. But certainly being in a collegiate environment, especially a place like Harvard where education and teaching is so important, and our mission statement is education through athletics. And so just the life lessons that come up and just trying to be a good role model is pretty important to me, and I think that's what drives my coaching.
Once again, we thank you for joining us for this episode of The Real Women of Coaching, part of the Women's Coaching Network. Join us next time as Linda Murray shares with us the difficulties she has experienced working with athletic administrators.